mission in the affected areas that are most remote. NPR's Rebecca Hersher reports further rain and flash flood warnings are complicating the cleanup effort.
The National Weather Service issued flash flood warnings through Monday evening for parts of West Virginia, including a swath in the southeastern part of the state that was wiped out by floods on Friday. Landon Marchette and her brother lost everything. Now they can't decide whether to stay and try to clean up or flee for higher ground ahead of today's rain.
It makes no sense. It's like, come on, God, what do we do to deserve all this?
The National Guard expects to be on the ground all week to provide assistance. Rebecca Hersher, NPR News, Greenbrier County, West Virginia.
Secretary of State John Kerry says he'll regret that Britain will not be a part of negotiations between the U.S. and the European Union, but he says in no way is the United Kingdom's standing diminished. In London today, Kerry affirmed the U.S.-British alliance.
Good friends are important all of the time, but they are especially important in complex times. And I want to make it clear that at this moment of challenge, the United States of America knows would not ask for a better friend and ally than the United Kingdom.
Kerry speaking days after the UK voted to leave the EU, a decision that sent world markets into a tailspin last Friday. You're listening to NPR News. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew is urging the Senate to take action on Puerto Rico's debt crisis before a critical deadline this week. NPR's Greg Allen reports the island is poised to default on a $2 billion debt payment due Friday.
In a letter to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, the Treasury Secretary says well-funded creditors who hold Puerto Rico's debt are working to delay Senate action until after Friday's deadline. If Puerto Rico defaults on general obligation debt payments guaranteed under the island Constitution, Secretary Lew warns a judge may order the government to pay creditors ahead of essential services. Lew writes, this could force Puerto Rico to lay off police officers, shut down public transit, or close a hospital. Earlier this month, the House passed a bill that would set up a fiscal control board that would take charge of Puerto Rico's budget and have the authority to restructure its debt with court approval. Lew says the Senate needs to act before Friday or, quote, Puerto Rico will be further harmed. Greg Allen, NPR News.
The Paris prosecutor's office has opened a manslaughter probe into the crash of an Egypt airplane that killed 66 people. It says so far there's no evidence pointing to terrorism. The Egypt Air flight was en route from Paris to Cairo when it went down in the rain on May 19th. The Israeli and Turkish governments have struck a reconciliation deal. It restores full diplomatic relations 6 years after their dispute over Israel's raid of an activist flotilla that was attempting to get aid into Gaza over Israel's objections. 10 Turkish citizens died in the 2010 standoff. Under today's pact, Israel offers compensation for the deaths and allows Turkish delivery of aid to Gaza. I'm Lakshmi Singh, NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Novo Nordisk, whose website, actfordiabetes.com, is an advocacy tool for patients with diabetes, people at risk of diabetes, and family members and friends of people affected by diabetes. At actfordiabetes.com.
How can the police be policed? The Newark case study.
The police department's stop and arrest practices have a disparate impact on the city of Newark's black residents.
What do the police see? A ride-along look with Newark, New Jersey's gang unit. That's next time on The Takeaway, weekday afternoons at 3 on 93.9 FM.
This is Fresh Air. I'm Terry Gross. My guest, Barbara Cook,